What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Backyard BBQing. Today we're cooking for 50 people. We're cooking tri-tips, we're cooking brisket, ribs, spare ribs, back ribs, burgers, you name it, we're cooking it. All right, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Let's get right into it. So the party isn't until tomorrow, so what my plan is to take care of the thing that's gonna take the longest to cook. And we all know that's the brisket. So we're gonna cook the brisket today, smoke it, get it all the way thoroughly cooked through, and then we're gonna hold it over in our oven at about a temperature of 160 degrees overnight. The rest of the cooks, like the ribs, the tri-tips, is all going to be done tomorrow morning before the party. So let's go ahead and get started on this brisket. So what we have here is a 16-pound brisket. We'll go ahead and get this thing opened up and get started. Now, you guys have all seen me cook a brisket on here before. We're basically going to use all the techniques. I won't bore you with all the details of the whole thing. I will definitely show you my method to cooking a brisket. All right, so now that we've got the brisket out of the package, it's time to start cutting this thing down. The very first thing that we should do is take out the decal fat. This decal fat isn't going to render down in your cook, and it's just a huge piece of fat. So go ahead and carve it out. This one was sitting in my freezer for a little while, and then I had it defrosting in my fridge for about 3 days, and it's still kind of hard. Not frozen, but still pretty hard. But we'll get this thing cut out, cleaned up, and in the smoker. And we're cutting off so much, but don't worry, we're saving all this fat. We're gonna render this down in a later video, and I'll show you guys what I like to do with it. Get rid of all this silver skin. And I'm cutting with the grain of the meat. Okay, so we're looking for about a 1/4 inch thick of fat on the fat cap here. Now, as you can see, this thing is pretty thick. So we're gonna take this down. And also, we've got a flap of meat here that probably won't cook very well. And because this is gonna be our presentation side, it'll cook fat side up. It'll kind of just get, you can see that seasoning won't really stick very well. More than likely it'll pool up. So we're gonna have to cut that off. Nice piece of meat. You can see the marbling in there. It's really nice. And we'll save this piece. So let's clean this up, and then we'll start taking down the fat cap. Nice fat. We'll get in here at different angles. All right, so I think this thing's ready. We'll probably make a couple of other cuts, and I'll do that off camera, and then I'll get you guys ready for what we're gonna season this thing with. All right, so we're gonna keep it really classic with this rub. We're gonna do 2 parts coarse black pepper to 1 part coarse kosher salt. And now that we are stirred up, let's bring in the brisket again. We've got the brisket back out. Now, I'm not going to use a binder on this thing. I want the bark to set really nicely. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rub it down. And what will happen is the outside of the meat will start to get a little pasty, and it'll let the seasoning set and stick. We're just going to rub it all down. Fat side down first, because that is presentation side. All right, so now that we've got it all rubbed down, we're just gonna start sprinkling our mixture on it. Let's get our edges looking pretty good. Now let's do our presentation side. And I call it presentation side, although we're not presenting it. And we'll do the same thing with this one. So that is looking pretty good to me. So let's go ahead and get our pit started. All right, now while we wait for our pit to come up to temp, we're gonna smoke this thing from about 250 to 275 degrees using post oak. And again, the plan is to get it smoked, get the crust set, and then pop it in our oven. Probably gonna hold it overnight for about 12 hours up until the party time, about an hour before party, start cutting into it. In the meantime, what you're gonna see next is me trimming up the tri-tip and getting those ready for overnight marinades. All right, so now that our pit is sort of up to temp, 225, we're gonna open it up. We're getting some nice blue smoke there, and we're gonna lay our brisket down. So we're gonna lay our brisket down, fat side towards the fire. Smoke is gonna travel over and out. All right, so we'll keep an eye on this thing. Next, what we're gonna start doing is trimming some tri-tips. Now, this is really popular in the state of California, and it is starting to catch some popularity in other states. So for all those that are not from California, do not just season your tri-tip with salt and pepper. Tri-tips are meant to be marinated, and it's really up to you to find your favorite marinade. So with that, I'm gonna show you my favorite one. What we have here are some untrimmed tri-tip. You can tend to get these a little bit less as far as cost is concerned per pound when they are untrimmed, and you get to use all that fat. So we're gonna trim this up and expose a lot of the meat. Because these are direct grilled, the fat doesn't have enough time to render down, so it's really important to get out as much fat as you can. So we're gonna trim these up. And I've got about 5 of these. And we're gonna cut off all this fat. And we're gonna save it. So I'm not gonna waste all of the camera space here on showing you how to trim this up. I'm gonna go ahead, trim all 5 of them up, and then I'll pile them up and show you what we're gonna do with them. All right, so we've got all of our tri-tips trimmed up. I know I said I'm cooking for 50 people, and there's 5, there was 5 tri-tips that I have. I've got the brisket going right now, as you guys seen. I'm trying to avoid making this video an hour long, so you're probably gonna get some tidbits of it. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna show you how I like to marinate my tri-tip. So I'll take a Ziploc bag, open it up, stick this tri-tip in there. So you can also buy any type of marinade off the shelf, but I have found what I liked. What we have here is some zesty Italian. So we've just opened it up. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna dump some of it into here. Actually, I should probably shake it up before I do that. Nicely shaken up. We'll dump some of that in here. We're not gonna use the whole thing, but maybe about 3/4 of the bag. And then what I really like is I like using Rob's rub here. This is the savory chipotle. You guys know I love Rob's products, and I want to take this time to thank him. He really helped out with making this video today. So what we'll do is we'll just add some of this in there. And then after that, that's it. We'll close this thing up, let out all the air, give it a nice mix. Get that Rob seasoning mixed in with that Italian dressing, and we'll just mix this up. So because, like I said, these cook nice and hot and fast, we cook these to about a medium tomorrow. Normally I'd like to have a medium rare, but because I'm cooking for a lot of different people, I want everybody to be able to enjoy it.
but that's as far as I'm willing to go, is a medium. So we'll mix this up. We'll pop this in the fridge overnight. I like to at least, bare minimum, 8 hours. But if you can do it beforehand, overnight, that'd be preferred. And I'll go ahead and hit the rest of them like this, and then I will show you guys how I cook them tomorrow. All right, so we're on about hour 4. Don't pay too much attention to these slabs of meat here. I'm using these for some chili. To be specific, they are chili beans. So what we have here is we have a mixture of some apple juice and some apple cider vinegar. We're gonna go ahead and start spritzing to keep the outside nice and hydrated. We're at about hour 3 or 4. As you can see, I did add in a piece of foil. This side was getting a little crisp, so just to protect it from some heat, we've been adding charcoal and post oak to it as we go along, and been maintaining temps at about 225 to 250. So we'll close it up. All right, so here we are. We're starting to get, let me adjust the camera there for you guys. We're starting to get some really nice color on it. As you can see, I'll bring you in a little bit closer, and as you can see, it's looking real nice. We've got really nice colors on it. Bark's not fully set, but really nice colors. We're still spritzing with our apple cider vinegar slash apple juice on it. So we'll continue to spritz it. And obviously, we lost some daylight, but that was expected. I started this cook a little bit later in the day because I knew I was gonna be so busy with so many other things. So yeah, I've just been adding charcoal, adding wood, a lot more wood over charcoal just so we can get that smoky flavor to it. But we're gonna continue going, and I'll keep you guys updated, make an update when I'm ready to wrap it. All right, but until then, here we have some pork spare ribs. Let's go ahead and get this thing open. And because we have so many that we need to start cooking, I'm gonna show you how to cut down one of them and then do the rest. So we've got this thing pulled out. Cut off some of this excess fat. Square them up. And because they are pork spare ribs, they have this chine bone that runs down the top of them. Really easy to find that seam. Just go ahead and cut it off. Just like that. Set that to the side. And with these spare ribs, there's flat meat right here. Rub won't really get in there and it'll cook kind of weird, so we cut it off. So now what you have are some St. Louis cuts. Now we can go ahead and kind of trim this down a little, square it up some, so we'll do that. Again, let's take off some of this fat. This is just a lot of fat right here. Inside, and you can start working that membrane slowly but surely off. All right, so we're looking pretty good now. These ribs are ready to get seasoned. Let me show you what I like to use. We're gonna flip these things over and start on the back side. This is our presentation side. And even though we're not presenting the whole rack of ribs, each individual rib is going to get presented. Right, so we'll start off on this side. Well, I'm not using a binder, so I'm just gonna tack this thing up. So what we're gonna use
And again, shout out to Rob Smoke and Rub. I'll put a link in the description. This one is called the Mate Blend. It's a really nice salty, kind of garlicky taste to it. We're gonna put this thing, we're gonna season the backside of them with some of this. This just gives it a different flavor profile. Kind of pat that in, flip it over. Do a light coating of it on the front side. And then one of my favorite rubs from Rob, his award-winning Trainwreck rub. I'll put a link in the description of all his rubs, but this is the one to go to. Just heavily seasoned. Get the edges. And just like that, we're done. So I've got about 4 more to do, so I'll check back in with you guys when we get to the offset. All right, so here's what we got, people. Since this is a smaller, cheaper offset, we're able to fit all 4 of our racks of ribs. We'll really pay attention to this one here. We don't want too much heat hitting that one, so we might rotate them every so often. But we're gonna look at these, we're just gonna keep an eye on them. And we're gonna try and keep our temperatures from about 250 to 275, but I'll check back in later. And what we have here are some pork back ribs. Picked these up from Costco. Let's go ahead and tear into them and get them. Let me show you how I'm gonna get them ready. So here we have some pork back ribs, fresh out of the package. Now we can come in and kind of cut this end bone here because it's probably just gonna burn. So we'll cut that off, kind of square them up a little bit. But there's not too much work that needs to be done with these backbones, especially compared to the spare ribs. These are pretty much ready to go. They even sort of look like the membrane on the back is already pulled off. But just to be sure, what we're gonna do with these ones is we're just gonna score them and cut across the bone. All right, so now that they're cut, what we're gonna hit them with is some of Rob's Trainwreck rub. This is one of my favorites. That's why I'm constantly showing it to you guys. Rob's done a really good job with this rub, and we're just gonna cover this rib with his rub. That's the back side. Now let's hit the presentation side. Just like so. And we'll let that set in. And since we're gonna hang them in the barrel, we're gonna take our hook here. We'll go about 4 or 5 ribs down. Hook it in, and we'll get the rest of them ready. All right, so we've got all of our racks of ribs seasoned up. Full transparency, some of these look like the membrane weren't there, and I wasn't sure, so what I did is I just scored the ones that didn't look like they had them just in case, but the ones that did for sure have them, I was able to rip them off, and we're gonna go ahead and get the barrel ready. All right, so we've got all of our racks of ribs hanging in the barrel. So let's go over what we've got done so far. We've got 6 racks of ribs in the barrel. We've got 4 racks of ribs in the offset, and we've got our brisket that we held overnight in the oven. So we're moving. The next thing that we're gonna be cooking are the tri-tips, so stay tuned for that. All right, so here's where we're at with the ribs that were on the offset. Our crust on the outside has now set, so this is the perfect opportunity to get these things wrapped and throw them back on the grill. So what I have here is about 30% apple juice, and what we're gonna mix that with is Rob's Rub
sauce that he has. This is another award-winning barbecue sauce that Rob has that I really enjoy. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take his sauce here, mix it in with the apple juice. Now we're just thinning it down because all we're doing is adding in just a little bit of hydration when we wrap these things. And I'm gonna shake this thing up real nice. And we're just building the layers of flavor. So we'll mix that up real nice. Kind of get a little foil boat going on here. And then we'll start hitting the ribs with this nice little mixture that we got here. And again, we're just building some flavor layers on this thing. At the end of it, we're gonna add in his sauce all by itself to get these ribs nice and sauced up. So now that we've got some hydration in there, we'll wrap these things up nice and tight. All right, so I'm gonna go grab the other three, do the same thing that I just did here, and then throw them back on the offset. All right, so we've reached a point now where it's time to hang the tri-tips in the barrel. So let me go ahead and set that up. So here's our tri-tips that we've been marinating overnight. Go ahead and pull one of these out. Take our hook, jab it right in, and we'll go hang those in the barrel. I've got 6 more to do. All right, so it is getting close to the deadline. I'm trying to find time to find footage as well as getting ready to cook for all these people. Without further ado though, the brisket is ready. I'm ready to slice into it. And as far as the ribs, I'm gonna try and get as much footage as I can because we're getting really close and I wanna make sure all the food is ready by the time everyone gets here. All right, so let's get into the brisket. And here we have our brisket. We're gonna scoop this over. We're getting people running in and out right now, so bear with me for any noises. Hey, can you grab that pan for me that I put on that chair? This right back, and then you can put it back over there. Thank you. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut it right there. I'm recording right now, FYI. I'm recording right now. So let's go ahead and cut into this thing. It's really jiggly. The bark has seen better days, but whatever. Really juicy. Let's see the lean. Options. Cut this thing in half. So let's check it. Oh, the bend is perfect. What about the tenderness? Perfect. Let's try it. Bassino, I'm gonna give somebody a try here. This is a lean brisket. So we're still trimming here. Now let me get a taste of this fatty. Get that burn end off. Oh, look at the color. It's looking great. Gosh, look at the fattiness of that. It's just perfect. Let's try that. That is cooked to perfection. So I'm gonna get this all cut up and then I'll check back in with you guys. All right, so then we're gonna cut into some ribs. We're gonna follow the line in the back here and just start slicing into it. These things are still piping hot. Perfectly cooked rib.
All right, so it was extremely hard to get any footage yesterday. We were having the baby shower, I'm sorry, it was a baby shower for my son that's coming. And it was really hard to get some content because I really was crunched for time. At the end of it, people started showing up, so I had to start moving. But I just wanted to give you guys a quick, I guess you can say update how the food turned out. So let's walk over there. All right, so here's your update. This is where the brisket was. So I think they like that. This one was full of ribs. There's a couple of bones left in there. This one was full of ribs. Oh, somebody was nice enough to leave me one. And this was full of tri-tip. Completely gone. Everybody loved the food. I hope I have some footage yesterday of something cooked. But it was a really fun cook, really stressful. It just goes to show that that no matter how much you think you have your timing down, it's not fully perfect. Thought out, I guess. I think I could have used an extra hour and I would have been happy. But all in all, still came out really, really nice. So that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. And also, if any of my family or friends are watching this video, I wanted to say thank you for coming out and also watching and supporting my channel. So if you finish this video all the way through, comment you're welcome and give it a thumbs up.